With the NHL offseason quickly coming to an end, some players that we thought we might see get some new contract extensions have not yet been in talks. The player that we're talking about is William Nylander. This report came out from the Hockey News. The lack of progress in contract extension talks between the Leafs and William Nylander prompted some observers to suggest the 27-year-old winger could be traded before to the start of the season. Now, as I'm sure you probably just saw, on his final year making $6.962 million with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see what happens. But I think I'll be the first to tell you that I do not see William Nylander getting traded in the situation the Leafs are in right now. Unless some crazy stuff happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs where they're not in a playoff spot come the trade deadline, I see William Nylander being with this team for even beyond this year, looking for a new contract extension, which we'll be going over later in this video. But no, Nick, what do you think about the concept of a William Nylander trade?
I think that that's not likely to happen, like you said, unless Toronto is in a situation where maybe they have some kind of injury and like they're not going to be in a playoff spot. Because we know the Leafs have no trouble making it to the playoffs ever since they got through their last rebuild with Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and all that and whatever. They've had no trouble making the playoffs. The trouble comes in the playoffs. So I don't think you'll see any situation where William Nylander is going to be dealt. I think if there is a William Nylander trade, I think that's one that the Maple Leafs would probably have to lose, considering that he doesn't have an extension. Unless, of course, they do a sign and trade. But again, I don't really see a likely scenario for that. That doesn't really make sense at this time for them.
Yeah, as of right now, this has, I think, in no chance of happening whatsoever. But on the terms of a contract extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs, we may now start to see some more escalated talks for William Nylander between him, the Maple Leafs, and his team, mainly due to the recent extensions and just signings of Sebastian Aho here at 8 years, $9.75 million a season, and Troy Terry 7 years, $7 million AAV. Now, this is a pretty important. These are pretty much important signings for Nylander because I think he'll be around the same salary as some of those guys like Troy Terry, who obviously we know wanted $9 million, which I didn't think at any point he would have gotten, and Sebastian Aho, who's also making just upwards of $9 million. And I think that we could see William Nylander, his signing around that range. But I want to ask you one question. This is not regarding William Nylander, but around Troy Terry, Nick. Troy Terry, on the extension, when they announced it, I seen some people saying that he doesn't deserve that money. What do you think about that? Because, realistically, I think that's pretty good money for him. Obviously, he hasn't scored above 65 points in his career, but now it's not a very long career. That's also with the Anaheim Ducks. But what do you think about that?
Well, considering that the cap is going to go up in a couple years and the fact that it's not like 8 million plus, like 7 million is a pretty decent deal in today's NHL. Like, I'm pretty sure the Wild locked up Matt Boldy for that price.
Yes, exact same contract.
Recently. Yeah, so that's a pretty good deal to me. I'm pretty sure this guy's going to be playing with Trevor Zegras for the remainder of his career there, if Trevor Zegras is locked up as well. I don't think 7 million is a bad contract at all. I mean, look at Nylander pretty much signed. We can call it 7 million. It's 6.9, but it's 7 million, his last contract. And look how that turned out for Toronto. Like, obviously the playoff success is not there, but William Nylander constantly has been one of their better point producers in the playoffs, and he's a 40-goal scorer. So that for 7 million, considering some money that other players are making around the league that maybe shouldn't be, that's a pretty good deal for him, I think.
Yeah, and I think that William Nylander's extension, have it come, anytime before the season or during the season, will be above the one of Troy Terry, because that's pretty much what he's making now. I can see it being around the range of Sebastian Aho, maybe a bit less, but some may even say a bit more, based on his overall game, the points that he's getting, compared to Sebastian Aho, all around that thing. But it might be hard for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because we know they don't have very much money. But another big thing that they will have an issue over the next few years is their expiring contracts. Now, obviously, this year they did sign Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi in free agency, both for 1-year deals, with a total of just around 13 million. 8.5 million. But Nylander and Austin Matthews are also expiring after this season. So, there's going to be a lot of stuff that the Maple Leafs are going to have to do with the Nylander signing. They might not be able to pay him as much as he wants, with Austin Matthews probably wanting more than what he's making this year, which is crazy absurd, but it's deserving. It's not much you can do about that, but it will be tough for the Toronto Maple Leafs to be able to make this happen with ease, And with Marner and Tavares also expiring next year, they're going to have something to look at. But, Nick, what do you think? What contract range, where do you think the range of his contract extension would be if he were to sign it over the offseason, with the remainder of the offseason, or heading into next season at some point?
Well, I don't think it's going to be very close to Troy Terry's, considering William Nylander has been a proven player up until this point. 40 goal scorer. He's gotten better with age. He didn't get as much money as I think he wanted on his last contract. This time around, he's got all the leverage. Like he can just leave as a UFA. Last time he was an RFA, so he had a little bit of he didn't have as much leverage there. But now he's going to get paid, and it's going to be a problem for Toronto considering that Aho contract, because some people might say that William Nylander is a more valuable player than Sebastian Aho. And honestly, I thought Aho's defense was a little bit better than Nylander's, which it very well may be. But I was looking at the chart there for William Nylander. I know we don't have those charts available right now, but William Nylander's even strength defense was better than Sebastian Aho's in percentage for the last couple of seasons. So if anyone wanted to argue his defense was better, I don't know if he can do that. And maybe the fact that Aho's a center, that might get him a little bit more money. As we know, centers are probably the highest paid players in the NHL. Wingers, not so much. Although we did see David Pastrnak get that 11 point whatever $million contract he got there recently. Now William Nylander is not up to that standard, but I think honestly this starts at $9 million for William Nylander and it moves up. Yeah. Because if Aho gets 9.5, 9 point.
Yeah, it was around 9.75, so just about 10 million, just under.
Yeah, so William Nylander is going to probably want 9.5 as a starting point because he's a better point producer than Sebastian Aho, close if not better. I'm pretty sure he is better. I'd have to look at that, but I know he's a 40 goal scorer. He also produces in the playoffs when it matters for Toronto. One of the only guys that does do it. So, like I said, 9.5 is a starting point.
Yeah, I could see that as well. You know, I think it'll definitely be above 9. I think he's well deserving of 9, and I think that he'll want to stay with the Toronto Maple Leafs and try and work that contract in with the Maple Leafs before he explores other options. Because obviously the Maple Leafs, they're pretty much just as far as they can go in team-building aspect to get to the Stanley Cup, you know. They got past the first round this year in these playoffs for the first time in a long time, and I think they're pretty close, you know. They did some big additions of Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi this offseason, which I think are very crucial to the season coming with the contracts they have expiring over the next 2 years. You can see here, obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, Matthew Nye is going to be back as well, full-time. Got Ryan Reeves, and a very good locker room guy, knowing from Minnesota. Very good on ice, too, when he wants to be. But I think that you're right about that contract. It will start at around 9.5, but we were only talking about this before the video. Last time, we didn't realize Nylander was 27 years old, because we only remember him playing with the Marlies what seemed like a couple of years ago. So, you know, you're right. He's getting better with age, like you said earlier in the video, but I think you're right in saying that a 9.5, 9 million starting range is what we will see for William Nylander. And I expect some talks to start soon with the extensions of Troy Terry and Sebastian Aho now being completed. You have to assume that the Anaheim Ducks will start on Trevor Zegras now just to get him locked up, get everything out of the way for next season. So he may wait to see what Zegras does as well. We'll have to see with that. You know, we don't really know the whole situation going on with the Zegras either. Seen from our last video that some teams were interested in trying to trade for him, specifically Boston, after having very little center depth. But if you want to check out the video, I do recommend you should. But that's what we got. We don't really know if anything's going to happen with the trade. I very much doubt that the Maple Leafs will want to trade William Nylander if something crazy happens, like we said. But that's all we got. If you liked the video, make sure to like it. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. We'll be keeping up with all the contracts this offseason for the remainder of it, as well as any trades or anything that goes down. So make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of it. We hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching, and see you later.